say A, and that's your final answer?
So let's get down to it. Let's talk about in the news with Joe Biden, who gave a speech. They didn't call it a State of the Union speech. It was a little bit different because even though everybody in Congress has been vaccinated, they decided to have social distancing anyway. So normally about 1,000 people attend the State of the Union address by the president. And this time there were about 200 people there. Frankly, it didn't matter because he didn't say anything that was really important. And interestingly, even the mainstream media that tends to kowtow to Biden and his other whack leftist buddies had to comment on the lack of veracity in so many of his statements. And to quote one part, they say, the USA Today, which is certainly not a conservative news source, referred to it as he had got some facts wrong and stretched others, mainly repeated claims we've heard before. So that's a little bit from USA Today. He said he inherited the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. That, of course, is a totally false statement. Things actually were not even as bad as the Great Recession of 08-09. And in fact, the economy was surging back under the leadership of President Trump, and the development of the vaccine under his program, Warp Speed. And all of that was in place before Joe wandered into office. And then he also debunked claims that he had traveled 17,000 miles with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Obviously has not done that. But more importantly, I don't know that either he or Putin over in Russia give a darn about Biden. I think that the man has virtually no respect on the international stage. And that's kind of an interesting side note because a lot of people felt that Trump was not respected on the national stage. And I think that was a misunderstanding. Standing strong is sometimes not the way to make friends with the weak leaders around the world. The strong leaders around the world respected Trump, and that's what we need. We don't need people to say, oh, we're wamby-pamby and we really want a wamby-pamby leader in the White House so we can suck up to him and be part of the little country club operation going on there. That's not how to get things done when you're dealing with existential threats like the Communist Chinese Party and Russia and North Korea and Iran. And so I think people have a misunderstanding of what we need the president to be. Being a nice guy doesn't get the job done. So in any event, he claims that his American jobs plan will create millions of jobs. I don't know what Biden knows about creating jobs. He certainly did not do it under his Obama-Biden 8 years in office. It was a terrible time for the economy and for the jobs market. And so I really doubt that he can deliver. Further, he hasn't provided any details. And, you know, as they say, the devil's in the details. And then he said he's going to restoring programs to address the causes of migration. Now, let's get down to it. Basically, it is not broke America's responsibility, broke on the way to a $30 trillion national deficit. And we have a situation where we are spending far more than we are taking in. And he is saying, gee, we need to throw some money at Central America so that their people don't come to the United States. I'm not unsympathetic to the cause of these impoverished countries, many of them dominated by years of failed socialist governments, and they have blown through millions and millions of dollars to no good end. And I hate to see us dump more money without having a clear path to get things done. Furthermore, just securing the border by itself accomplishes a great deal. If people do not think they can just walk into this country, which many of them are presently doing, hundreds of thousands of them since Biden made his foolhardy pronouncements, then that to me is the short-term answer. Long-term, certainly we can be good neighbors to our Central American colleagues. And I do not oppose that in itself, but I have to wonder how much money do we have left over from some of the other programs that they have thrown money at over the last so many years. And then Biden falsely claims that 11 million of the undocumented folks in the United States have overstayed their visas. That is a patently false statement. Even USA Today agrees with me on that. And the estimate is that there are 30 million illegals in the United States at this time, not 11 million, a number that's been trolloped out by the silly folks repeatedly, and we need to do something about that. He also claimed that the assault weapons ban was a great success. That actually has not been borne out by studies, and I'm not a big fan of people running around with assault weapons, but I think we need to again and again focus on the cause of mass violence, and I believe it starts with having a calmer, more cohesive society, and certainly not one as divisive as the Biden leadership has indicated to this point. And the Wall Street Journal described his speech as making the middle class dependent on the government, cradle to grave. And I think that's probably a pretty accurate statement. One of the very sad aspects of the evening, by the way, was Senator Tim Scott, African-American, as all of you know, gave the Republican rebuttal to Biden's poorly done speech and factually inaccurate speech. And he was criticized by the left because the left feels that if you are someone of color, that you cannot ever support the Republican Party. And they made some very, very racist, not just unkind, but racist comments regarding Tim Scott's rebuttal. And I take umbrage at that as an American, not as a conservative, but as an American. And I think we need to start playing by better rules on both sides of the aisle. And I think that's something we need to hold people's feet to the fire.